Thank you, everybody. Hopefully you answered the poll question that we shared just now. I first want to say thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for this webinar, where we have some great content for you today. And we're excited to introduce the Oxford Spotlight Test with you. And I'm joined by Tom and Kamila here, my two colleagues at Oxford International, to talk about the Spotlight Test. We'll quickly do introductions and we'll jump right into content. I'll start with myself. My name is Bjorn Myhre. I'm the Director of Business Development for the United States, and I work with our U.S. partners in the western half of the United States. I'll pass the mic to Tom to do a quick introduction, and then Kamila.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you, Bjorn. Thank you for joining us this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Tom Dawtrey. I'm the Head of Language Services and Partnerships at Oxford International Digital Institute, and I've been one of the members of the team developing our new placement test Spotlight.
Thank you, Tom.
Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Kamila, and I'm the Academic Director for Oxford International Digital Institute, and as such, I oversee our testing and pre-sessional programs.
Great. Could we see the results of the poll real quick? And if everyone had a chance to answer that quick question? Thank you. So it looks like accurate placement takes the prize for the most votes, and quality content is second, and then user experience is third. That's interesting. Length and accessibility and price didn't get any votes, so that's interesting to know. Good thing today we'll talk about that quality and the placement results, and how this can meet your needs. There is something that's remarkable about our test is that we realize that there's not a perfect off-the-shelf test ready to meet every institution's needs. So we developed the Spotlight test to be fully customizable. So each institution can create the test for their own institution's specific needs and wants. And speaking of that, we'll start with the first kind of question here and topic about customization. Tom, could you share some of the ways that how institutions can customize the test to meet their needs? Because it's hard to make a perfect thing that meets everybody, but ours is very unique in the sense that there is a lot of adaptability. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Bjorn. And yeah, fully expected the outcome of that poll to focus on quality placement. I think everybody on this webinar wants a placement test that does that. But I think, one of the other things that we found when we were doing a lot of research before building Spotlight was that actually there are already a lot of placement tests out on the market, but not necessarily every placement test does what a university or a school or a college needs. So one of the things that we wanted to really focus on was being able to design something that could be customized to a specific institution's need. And to do that, we really looked at all of the elements that you need for a good placement test and break them down so that you as institutions are able to build them back up again. So you can see on screen here, there's a couple of, well, more than a couple, quite a few different options that you would be able to talk to us about re-Spotlight. The first, as you can see, is the components that we offer. You don't have to pick all 6 of them. You could pick just one of them if you want. Obviously, we have the reading, listening, grammar, vocabulary, writing, and speaking. The assessment type for our speaking test, we're able to offer a live speaking test that is conducted by an examiner through a video link, or asynchronously, where the student is able to conduct the speaking test themselves through a video and audio recorder. There is even the ability for you to engage with the students and actually assess the students yourselves. So if you want us to take care of that, that's absolutely fine. We have a team of examiners globally that will be able to, assess the students' writing and speaking. But we are also inviting you to be able to engage with that content and to do the assessment yourself. Obviously, we also provide all of the marking rubrics and the training, etc. the levels of the test. We wanted to make a test that could be very specific to a group of students, or actually be quite open to a range of students that were taking it. So rather than just having a test that covers all levels, if you need a test for specific lower level students, you could build a test that covers those lower levels, let's say from A1 to B1. Likewise, if you wanted a higher level assessment to track students' exit requirements after they're completing modules or levels, then we would be able to build you something that focused on specific levels that those students were aiming for. Of course, security is still, as always, a very important feature within the Oxford ELLT kind of family of tests. So we have a number of different levels of security that you can choose for the Spotlight. Depending on where you're using this test, depending on what you're using it for, you may feel appropriate to have one or more of those levels of security added into the test. There are then kind of the other options that we include around how long you want to give students to complete the test, anywhere from 1 day to 30 days. How the students receive their results, so whether that's directly being able to download a certificate, or if the results just go to you as an institution for you to then either download as individual certificates or as an Excel file of results, also being able to view those through our Oxford ELLT partner portal. And finally, some various different white labeling options as well. So if you wanted to really make this an internal placement test that you're able to give to students either on course or coming onto course, we would be able to set that up for you. So I want to show you very briefly from the platform directly what that might look like once we have completed the customization of your specific test. It all starts with us generating the test for you, and we would be able to send you a bespoke registration link. This link would contain all of the details of your test that you have chosen for you to be able to send out to students. Students are then able to self-service by registering themselves, purchasing the license themselves, and getting started with the actual test themselves as well. So here you can see the kind of Spotlight registration page as with the Spotlight branding. There is a quick example here, and I'm sure our partners at Bournemouth University won't mind me showing off their white labeled platform. But if you want to white label it, we are able to create that for you, so it really gives students the feel of your institution rather than the Spotlight test itself. Once they've registered and they're in, students will obviously be able to begin the test. They will make their way through to the dashboard, and they will be able to then get started with the individual components. And I'm just going to show you here the comparison. Obviously, in this test, the partner has picked all 6 components for students to do, which they're able to within the license length. Another example would be where a partner is only requiring just the listening and the speaking in this example, or a smaller number of components. So that really is showing the customization that we can put together and being able to build you essentially your perfect test rather than just an off-the-shelf model that might not be completely suitable for what you need. Bjorn, back to you.
Thank you, Tom. That's very good. And I will mention that we built the Spotlight test with input from various universities from the US, Canada, and the UK to build in some of those customizable features, because we heard a lot of input that one school wanted something, another school wanted something else. So this is a key driving factor in making the Spotlight to meet institutions' needs. That's very good. We'll switch gears a little bit and talk about academic quality and content and our adaptive test nature of the Spotlight test. Kamila, could you speak about how the adaptive test format is structured and how the academic quality leads to accurate student placement results?
Sure, thanks, Bjorn. So obviously, as an adaptive test, it is a test that responds to students' responses or students' answers to given questions. Our test is slightly different. In a standard computer adaptive test, you probably know that depending on student answer, right or wrong, student is therefore moved up or down immediately after they answer given question, which is great because overall in adaptive testing, this reduces the time that students need to spend taking the test. it reduces fatigue a little bit, because obviously they don't have to kind of worry about the levels that are well beyond their reach or are really easy and they can get through quite quickly. So we wanted to keep that nature, but we wanted to eliminate sort of the guessing element and errors or skewed results that may happen with that a little bit. So our adaptive test actually moves students based on responses to number of questions, not just sort of one. The test overall is divided into 8 levels. And as you can see, sort of the colors there indicate the level, so blue, red, blue, red. A level always kind of has a combination of, let's say, 2 CFR levels, stronger or weaker or more difficult and easier questions within that level that are mixed up. And then students move up and down a level based on their answers to a track, what you can see there as T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, depending obviously how given institution decides to build their specific format of the test. Within each track, obviously, again, depending on the skills chosen as being tested, they go through all those sections. So let's say reading, listening, speaking, writing, and within each of those, at least in receptive skills, they answer a set of 4 questions. And then effectively based on average, within that given track, they move either down, they stay on the level, or they go up. And finally, in the end, the test effectively calculates their given score more accurately and reflects on their answers as an average rather than just individual responses to individual questions. Obviously, this is a little bit adjusted in the productive skills, so speaking and writing, where again, depending on what given institution chooses to focus on, as in the kind of lower level, the mid-range or higher levels, the students will always get a combination of a lower level question and a mid question, or mid question and a higher level question, again, to kind of balance this out. The additional, I'd say, component of accuracy, if you will, is that even though this is computerized test and students can do it completely asynchronously, when it comes to productive skills, when it comes to writing and speaking, they are marked by trained standardized examiners, which I think is a huge kind of element in that accuracy, that it's not a computer or AI kind of reviewing students' writing or responding to students' spoken production, but it is a trained and standardized examiner who is looking at their work, be it live or be it sort of later on when they've done the test asynchronously. So I think, you know, those are all components that contribute to effectively a bit more accurate testing. Yeah.
Thank you, Kamila. Those are great insights. And I love the fact that we use human examiners for the productive skills assessment piece. And of course, technology is key to this test to be efficient and effective. I did want to remind everybody listening live to post questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer a few questions at the end of the presentation. We're almost done with our prepared remarks. Also, everybody that did register will get a recording of this sent to them later. Somebody asked that question in the chat. So just remind everybody, we want to know what's on your mind. So send us your questions and we'll try to answer a couple towards the end. We'll move on to security features, because having a secure test is very important. And Tom, could you talk about how the security ensures that the right student is taking the test and the results are released with our partners? I think that's something everybody wants to know, is maybe how it operates in a safe and a secure environment.
Yep, of course. So the Oxford ELLT Spotlight, as the name suggests, is part of the Oxford ELLT family and has been built upon the same Oxford ELLT portal that our kind of ELLT admissions entry exam is built on. And because of that, we've been able to utilize a lot of the same security features as our ELLT, obviously breaking them down so that institutions are able to pick and choose rather than having to have everything on every test. So some of the different options that we can offer is the video and audio recording, which would be accessible to partners through the partner platform. So you're actually able to go back and review any tests. Likewise with screen recording, so we're able to capture the students' screen so that you're able to see what exactly they are doing within the test environment. The 360 video scan that we implemented into the ELLT to be able to see the environment that the student is taking the test in. Like with the ELLT, this would be conducted at the beginning of each test section, as well as intervals during the test. And this is to ensure that the students remain within the same environment throughout their examination. And then passport upload. This is an additional feature that can be added where the student at the point of registration uploads their passport and then repeats that before each of the test components. We would then also print that passport onto the certificate so that when you receive those certificates to verify or to check, you're able to use that as another point of reference to verify the candidate's identity and ensure that they are the genuine test taker. As I said before, security is incredibly important in online language testing. I think with a placement test and the many different use cases around how different institutions would use a placement test, there are sometimes reasons why you may want some security and then some reasons as you may not want security on other tests. I think the great thing with the Spotlight test that we've produced is that an institution doesn't have to just have one test. They can have multiple different versions of a test that they can use for different use cases. The idea with this test is that it can be very specific for different students, for different uses. So if you need different tests to be set up for all of those different kind of use cases that you might be thinking about, then we're able to do that for you. And we can really work with you to make sure that what we're producing is something that is going to be really useful for you for all of those cases, as it were. I'm going to just pass on to Kamila, who's going to talk a little bit about kind of the security, but from more of an academic point of view, and then we're going to flick back to the platform to see how that looks, and then the different versions.
Yes, indeed. So obviously, the security from an academic perspective very much lies within the content that we submit onto the platform. So we effectively build an ongoing process, or have an ongoing process to build a large bank of items that go into the test, which fundamentally means that our students don't really see one item more than once. So the test selects the items completely at random, obviously given the levels chosen, and mixes them up in such a way that students cannot really take the same test twice, fundamentally. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we do use live examiners for grading and marking who undergo standardization and mark against, obviously, rubrics. And all of our content is aligned with CFR. So it effectively builds on various different grammatical, lexical, functional criterion features that distinguish the different levels between CFR and is aligned to that accordingly. I think there's I'll jump straight into, because I think it kind of links up quite nicely, jump straight into answering one of the questions that appeared in a chat, and that is how Spotlight differs from ELLT or other tests such as TOEIC or IELTS. So obviously Spotlight is a placement test. ELLT is a high stakes, I would say, high stakes test that aims to cater to those students who are pre-university or functioning in a university environment, continuing their studies. The differences are quite vast, from obviously the time it may take to a test taker to actually do the entire test, but also the number of tasks and the type of tasks that they encounter. ELLT focuses on much sort of more in-depth analysis of various different subskills. The texts, whether it's listening or reading input, tend to be much longer. And obviously the genres that appear, as I said, cater to university environment, whereas Spotlight is a general English test across all levels and can be kind of used in a variety of different ways, depending on the institution's needs.
Thank you, Kamila. Tom, were you going to show us something on another screen of the security features that?
Yes, I was. I just wanted to, again, just show it from the platform itself, where, the students would have to complete some of those checks before being able to start their test. So in this test that has been set up, the students are required to complete one of those Room 360 scans, where they're asked to show around their room as well as above and under their desk. They are also asked to upload a copy of their passport, and again, that would tie into the ID check carried out from the beginning. All students are asked to complete an internet browser check, and that's so that we're able to make sure that they are using one of the browsers that have been qualified for this platform, and an internet speed test, so that they're obviously able to work through the test without any issues. Like with our Oxford ELLT, we do have that internet dropout feature that allows a student to continue with their test even if the internet drops out. They get a very short period of time to be able to reconnect, so they don't have to retake the whole test, as it were. In comparison, this would be a test where there aren't those security checks, so they're able to work through slightly quicker, slightly easier to get to the actual test content. I'm going to stop sharing there.
Thank you,
Yes.
Tom and Kamila. That's great insights and features that institutions can use. We're almost done with our time today. It went by so fast. We do have a few questions in the chat that I'll highlight. One of the important things that one of the questions was asking is, how is it different? And I think Kamila did address that, as it is different from a university admission test for international admission, like an IELTS or our ELT test, but it is very accessible, where it's available on the internet anywhere in the world. So students don't need to do placement testing on campus during orientation. They can do it months in advance before they come. So they and their families and the institution can plan and predict how long they might be in the English program. It's also very affordable. So, and the user experience is great in the sense that they take different skill components at each setting. So one of the questions was, can the Spotlight certificate be used to replace other international placement tests? And Tom or Kamila, would you like to speak to that question?
I mean, I suppose the answer would be yes. That would be down to the individual institution. I think there's going to be a slide potentially after we finish some questions that you can scan a QR code to book a little bit more of an in-depth demo, and actually to try the test yourself. So, we want people to try it themselves before they adopt it. We want you to see how great it is. So, please do scan that. I think that should pop up at the end of this session, and we can get in touch and make sure that you have the opportunity to give Spotlight a go before deciding to adopt it into your institution. Bjorn, maybe I can just answer that other question, I think, just around the flexibility of time. As I mentioned, you are able to decide how long students have to complete the Spotlight test. It is kind of as with the ELLT, once a student starts an individual section, so for example, a reading test, they have to complete that from start to finish. They're not able to pause and come back later in the day. With the reading, listening, grammar, and vocabulary sections, because of the adaptive nature, it may take some students longer to complete than others, depending on the content that they're accessing. Obviously, as you go up into the levels, for example, in the listening test, the audio tracks for a C1 level question would be longer than they would be for an A1 or A2 level question. But in general, all of the adaptive sections are around 25 to 30 minutes long. And then the writing and speaking is a little bit more fixed time, with the writing test being 15 minutes and the speaking test being just over 10 minutes to complete asynchronously, a little bit longer if it's with a live examiner, as obviously there's the connection at the start. The second part of that question around analysis for the test takers, I think, is probably in regard to kind of what information they get post-test. So as well as the certificate, which we've talked about, obviously, they do also receive a report. So this report highlights kind of what the student has been able to achieve. And as Kamila mentioned earlier, because it has been written very much within the Common European Framework, we have used a lot of the can-do statements from that kind of framework to build our report. So students will have a very clear understanding of what it is they've been able to achieve, but it also where maybe they need to put in a little bit of extra work if they haven't quite met what they were expecting to meet or achieve what they need to achieve.
Thank you, Tom. And we're basically to the end. The time did go quick today. One last question. What does it mean by customizing the test? Well, customization means you pick the features, you pick some of the levels, you pick what you're trying to get at, what group you're trying to target, and how you're going to build the test to meet your needs. So all these great specific detailed questions we love to answer in a more detailed meeting with you to address your individual needs. So if you'd like to book a meeting with one of our business development directors, or to actually demo and take the test and test the test yourself to see how it can meet your needs as an institution, please get in touch with us at Oxford International. And we love to give you a test waiver code or demo code to log in and take the test to see what the user experience for students would be like. You can scan the QR code. You can email myself, and we'll get you in contact with the right person. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank Tom and Kamila for the great content, and also for building the test. They're not just the talking heads on the webinar. They actually are behind the scenes getting dirty building this test to help institutions unlock opportunities for students and be efficient and be an effective placement test. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to meeting with you in the future and helping you serve your students in a great way.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for your time. Bye.